What's going on, everyone? Bass here. If you saw my recent video about the Packers fixing their salary cap, basically I wanted to go to the next step and kind of just run down a handful of free agent targets for the Packers this offseason. Now, not that they have a lot of money to sign said free agents, but if they do all the right moves, they could have a little bit of money to play with. That's, if they don't re-sign Corey Linsley, Aaron Jones, those type of players. They do have some money to play with if they want to add talent to other positions, per se, or just switch it up. So today I'm going to go over like an in-depth look of a handful of guys, like I said, that I just think would really fit well with the Packers team. I'm going to do some on offense, some on defense, especially at positions of need. We have need at corner, need at D-line. We're going to probably have a need at running back if you don't bring back Jamal or Aaron Jones. And then a potential need at receiver if you can get a guy at a cheap deal. So today I'm going to start it off with James White. Now this guy is very intriguing for this Packers offense. I've always been a huge James White fan ever since the days at Wisconsin. This guy's so versatile. He's not the best runner nowadays. He never was an amazing runner, but he is so talented in the receiving game as a running back. He's pretty much a wide receiver at this point. His time and his stats went down a little bit last season, but you have to look at the Patriots offense. It was just abysmal. Cam Newton basically couldn't throw. All he did was run, so you can't really take that. Just look at his time when he was with Tom Brady and how he literally should have been the MVP of that Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl, but Brady was given it, but James White pretty much did a lot, and I think Tom actually gave him the MVP car, actually. But besides that, in the receiving aspect, James White is ridiculous. In PFF just last year, in 2020, which was a down year, had an 84.2 rating. Now, if you go over to the running backs, that's top 3 in the league. You have Alvin Kamara and Nyheim Hines above him, which were both exceptional in the receiving game. And I think this is a player you could definitely bring in, and it would put a wrinkle to the Packers offense that they're going to end up losing with Aaron Jones. If you remember, Aaron Jones would always split out wide. He would catch passes out of the backfield. We're not sure what we can do with A.J. Dillon in that aspect. I don't think he has much production in college, or he didn't have much production in college with receiving the ball. I think he has decent hands, but I don't think that's where he's best utilized. So I think someone like James White would be wonderful there. And this is even if they bring back Jamal Williams. He's kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy. Even if they bring back Jamal for cheap, James White could still be even cheaper. I see his evaluation at $2.5 million a year, and you could probably sign him for 2 years. So by the end of his deal, he'll be 31. So he'll be 31 by the end of his deal. James White, back in 2018, 2019, pre-Cam Newton, was getting an average of 45 reception yards per game. That's insane as a running back. 2018, 5 touchdowns receiving. In 2019, 7 touchdowns receiving. That's a 650-yard receiving running back average both those years. That's ridiculous, and I think that could add so much to the Matt LaFleur offense and just what he wants to bring, like more innovation and just more innovation, and James White just provides such a big mismatch opportunity. So for a small deal, I could see him providing a lot for this Packers offense. Next on the list, we have wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Now, I'm going to have 2 wide receivers in this section, one of which is more of a project guy, special teamer, and then Curtis Samuel would be, your upside guy. You'd end up paying a little bit more for. I have his evaluation at $7 million a year. You'd sign him for 4 years. He's under 25 years old. This guy has, again, he's a great mismatch player. He can run the ball. He can run jet sweeps. He could be, in my opinion, he'd be Tyler Ervin on crack. Like, Curtis Samuel would be insane in the Packers offense with their jet motions and whatnot. Now, if they're willing to pay that $7 million. Obviously, we have a great deep threat in MVS. He's inconsistent at times, but he showed that, he can hang up really good games, and, he's a good deep threat. I think he had tied Tyreek Hill at the most deep touchdown, something like that. Curtis Samuel would be such an interesting gadget player. If you look at his overall grade, for 2020, 77. His receiving, 76.4, and his rushing, 75.9. So that's really good for a receiver. He had 41 carries, 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 5 yards per attempt. That's really good. Now, like I said, Curtis Samuel would be such a good addition for the Packers offense. I believe he is ranked right here, 27th overall in wide receiver. So that's overall for offense. But if you go to running here, If you go to running, he's the 5th best. And Lynn Bowden's pretty much a running back, so we'll go 4. We'll say 4th, pretty much. I guess Curtis Samuel did play some running back at Ohio State, but McCole Hardman, Odell Beckham, and Terry McLaurin above him for the running grade. So Curtis Samuel, like I said, if you can get him cheap enough, I think it's a very good idea. I think he's young enough. He could get even better. He provides a lot of upside, and I think he's exactly what the Packers would use in their offense. If you remember, like I said, I'll just circle back to it. The Tyler Ervin package, he's in jet motion almost every play. Every time he's on the field, he's jet motioning. And I think Curtis Samuel would add that and much more. He's 5'11". He has 4.31 speed. The dude is a burner. He can catch a deep ball. He can pretty much do it all. He's your Swiss Army knife for your offense. That's why I like him so much. So a low tier guy, which would cost practically nothing, is Keelan Cole. Obviously, you guys remember him returning a punt against us this year. I think it was a 91-yarder. Our special teams unit was abysmal. But the guy still has talent. He's still a decent wide receiver. He had, I believe, 700 yards or 642 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's not really a rusher. They don't really run him at all. But he's really good in the punt return game. I believe he had an average of 15.6 yards per punt return. He had that touchdown versus Green Bay, like I said, and I believe you could get him for very cheap. I believe you could get him for like $2 million a year for like 3 years. He's 27 or even 2 years. I believe you could get him for $2-3 million a year, for 2 or 3 years, and he'd be kind of taking over that Equanimous St. Brown role at the 4th string, and then also he would be our true punt returner, because Tyler Irvin's a free agent. We don't know if he's going to be brought back, and he would definitely boost that part of the team. So moving over to the defensive side of the ball, this guy intrigues me a lot in terms of a veteran pickup. He's almost 34. He's going to be 34 at the start of next season. Tyson Alualu had a wonderful 2020 season. Obviously, he's on that Pittsburgh defense. They have a lot of talent, so that can definitely help. But this is a guy I would love to pair next to Kenny Clark instead of Dean Lowry, instead of Tyler Lancaster. And he wouldn't be that expensive due to his age. Now, you're not going to get a ton of snaps out of this guy. 448 snaps. Not that much. But when you need to stop the run and you just need a guy to plug those holes, Tyson Alualu is your guy. He had an 89.6 overall grade in 2020. Run defense of an 82, and pass rush of an 80.5. Very, very solid. If you go to the defensive line rankings, Alualu is 9th, and guys above him, these are the top guys in the league in terms of defensive line: Onyemata, Hayward, Buckner, Vita Vey, Mario Edwards, Chris Jones, Aaron Donald. So you're looking at guys that, he's top 10 in terms of PFF defensive line ranking. And if you go down, you'll find Kenny Clark at 23rd. So just imagine having Kenny Clark and Tyson Alualu down there. I think it would really boost the Packers' run defense. Just really boost that defensive line in general. Something we've been lacking outside of Kenny Clark since Mike Daniels left. And I have his contract evaluation at about $3.5 million a year. You could probably sign him to 1 or 2 years. If you sign up for 1, just fully guarantee it. Only 11.6 missed tackle percentage, 38 total tackles. The guy was a beast down low. He was a really good defensive lineman this year. And like I said, the Packers don't do this much, which would be signing such an old guy for 1 year, 2 years, veteran presence. But I feel at this rate, Aaron Rodgers, in the last couple of years, 3 years of his deal, you got to do some of this. The Buccaneers did it. They signed, I know Leonard Fournette's not that old, but you have Leonard Fournette, you have a bunch of other guys that they signed, Antonio Brown, and look what happened to them. Super Bowl trophy and beat us in the NFC Championship. So you got to do things like this, and I think Tyson Alualu would be great production for the value you'd be at. So here's one that I like a lot. Jason Verrett has a weird story to his career. The dude was always hurt. Drafted by San Diego in the first round, 25th overall in 2014. From TCU, ran 4.38. This guy showed so much promise, but always was hurt. Come back to this year, 803 snaps. That is more snaps than the last 4 years before this combined. So you kind of saw this year, he stayed healthy, which is a great sign, and he played very well. I like him a lot to take our other corner spot when Kevin King leaves, because we don't really have a guy there right now. I would assume we're going to draft a corner in the first or second round. But who knows if he's going to be ready? Who knows what happens with him? I think Jason Verrett would be a great security blanket and a great player to have. I have his contract evaluation pretty low. I mean, he's not going to cost that much. Maybe $3.4 million a year for 2 years. He's going to be 30 years old when the season starts. And if you see his overall grade, 77.6. His run defense was really good too for being such a small guy at 5'10", 188 at 76.2, and his coverage at 76.1. Just overall a very good corner. If you look at the defensive PFF grades, he's 8th in the league. Shout out to our boy Jair, best corner in the league right there. So imagine if these rankings stayed the same for next year. You have 2 top 10 PFF corners. I think that would prove very well for the Packers defense. Kevin King was pretty much bottom of coverage grade. I believe he was pretty low down there, just to mess around. I mean, there he is. Yep, 45.6 coverage, just trash. Did not know Jeffrey Okudah and Desmond Trufant were that bad. Jeez. But yeah, Kevin King down there. But if you add Jason Verrett, I just think this guy would be such a great replacement for Kevin King. And you get a solid 2-3 years out of him. And like I said, the key to him is remaining healthy. If he can remain healthy, you're golden. And that's the problem. That's kind of the thing we went through with Kevin King. Although Kevin King had a pretty decent year in 2019, I just don't see them bringing him back. You're going to spend the same money on Jason Verrett than Kevin King, so why not go for this guy? Obviously, he's older. Like I said, I think the Packers should bring in more veterans this year. I think veterans are going to be the way to go with the way the salary cap's going. So I like him as probably my number 1 target in terms of what the Packers need and how much money they have. So the next 2 guys, I'm going to be showing corners as well, but they're going to be slot corners. Now, Desmond King has a lot of upside. His first 2 years, absolutely ridiculous. This guy, had an 85 and 88 PFF total or rating in his first 2 seasons. Obviously, he got shipped over to Tennessee for, I believe, a 6th round. He can punt. He can return the punts. He can do that. He did that in his early years. He has a very good run defense as a nickel corner with a pass rush. 78.4. His pass rush 70.6. His coverage is definitely lacking. He definitely took a decent step down since his first 2 years, but he has that upside. Who knows if he goes into a system like Green Bay and plays nickel there, he turns into like a Micah Hyde type player. You don't know, and I think that upside is well worth the money. I have his evaluation at $5 or $6 million a year just because of how young he is. He's 26, so you're going to pay a little bit more premium for him. Personally, I think it would have been great to get him for a 6th round last season, but that didn't happen. So, replace one King with another, I guess. Obviously, they played 2 different spots on the field, but Desmond King wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm still would put Verrett over him, but Desmond King wouldn't be a bad idea for upside and just for what he's brought in his first 2 years, trying to regain that type of play. For the other slot corner, I have Mike Hilton. He was a menace in pass rush. They blitzed him a lot, and he got home a lot. His run defense was shaky. He has a lot of tackles. He plays really up on the runs, but he has a lot of missed tackles. A lot of his tackles are missed. Also, again, a slot corner, and I have his valuation at about the same, $5 to $6 million, 3 years. He's going to be 27, start of next season. The Steelers utilized him really well, and I'm trying to make this comparison because the Steelers do have a similar defense to the Packers, where if you get a really nice nickel corner, obviously we have Chandon Sullivan. He's a restricted free agent. He's going to return to the team for $850,000, but you can always upgrade. You could always upgrade, and if the Packers are playing dime, or even if Chandon splits out wide, he can go out to wide corner on occasion. Mike Hilton's a kind of guy that I think would be an upgrade from Chandon Sullivan. Now, it's not necessarily like a full-on need, and I think paying $5 to $6 million for him or Desmond King probably isn't the best idea, but it's also a decent idea, and I think it's something they could definitely explore. Last but not least, we have linebacker KJ Wright. Now, I don't fully believe the Packers need to sign a linebacker. I think they're going to cut Kirksey, and Chris Barnes and Kamal Martin will be their starting linebackers next year. But I think they could use a veteran linebacker who is really good in coverage, is very talented. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, because it seems the Packers kind of sometimes miss that linebacker that can fly around the field, track running backs, that type of thing. Chris Barnes is a great thumper type linebacker. He's always right in the hole, tackling guys. Kamal Martin's obviously young, showed a lot of promise, but also missed a lot of tackles, so got to see what happens with him. But if you look at KJ Wright, a 78.7 coverage grade, an overall grade of 75.3, decent pass rush, decent run defense, and if you go to linebackers in the league, he's 7th, right below our boy Blake Martinez, who had a pretty damn good year. If we kept him, probably be well off, but I'm actually really surprised Blake had a 73.9 coverage grade, but he obviously got paid a little too much. Probably going to get, I think, a 4th round for him, compensatory pick, which is good. But if you compare him to the rest, a really high coverage grade, and that's something the Packers have been missing. If you go to the Green Bay Packers on here, you look at Chris Barnes, a 40.6 coverage grade. That's worse than Christian Kirksey. Christian Kirksey had a 51.2. And Kamal Martin's not even on here. I'm guessing he just didn't have enough snaps. So that just backs up what I'm saying. The Packers are missing that cover linebacker, and I know they do play a lot of a nickel and dime where they pretty much throw a safety in the box, Amos, or if they bring back Raven Green, him, or whatever. And that just follows back to if they signed Desmond King. He played some safety. He could definitely do that. But this is if you want to sign a linebacker. And KJ Wright is a proven veteran. I have his valuation at, right around 4.5 a year. You could sign him for 2 years. He's going to be 32 when the league year starts. Maybe even sign him for 1 year fully guaranteed. This is definitely an interesting thought. I think you see what the Buccaneers did in the Super Bowl and against the Packers with their linebackers. Levante David is a freak of nature, probably definitely top 3 linebacker in this league. Devin White didn't rank so well at PFF because his coverage grade was so abysmal, but this guy was always flying around the field. Devin White, if you just get a fast linebacker like him in the draft, Kamal Martin does show promise in terms of speed, but sight to be unseen yet. We got to really see what we have out of him. But like I said, KJ Wright, definitely an interesting thought. And if the Packers want to go that avenue of getting a leader veteran in the middle of the defense, this is definitely my choice. So that'll about wrap it up. If you combine what I did with the last video with all the moves I kind of did, I actually ended up not putting Lancaster on here just because if they sign Alualu, you don't really need to. You're looking at 15.8, and that's just a very, very rough estimate. So they do have a little room to work with. Obviously, you got to save money for the rookie class, and more importantly, the rookie class is going to deter what they might sign in free agency. So I think, like I said, they're going to draft corner and D-line in the first 2 days, definitely. Probably O-line too. Maybe an edge guy again, because Preston Smith's probably going to get cut, and then you definitely need some good talent there, backups there to continue to rush the passer. But overall, I just wanted to kind of go over a few guys, a handful of guys that if the Packers are to target some people in free agency, these are probably their best options or choices for this football team. So I want to hear what you guys have to think about this. So comment down below what you think of my choices. And if I missed anyone, maybe you have someone that's going to be a free agent that I missed out on that would be, a great addition to the Green Bay Packers. Definitely let me know down in the comments. And on that note, go Pack Go.